Now, I know you help people overcome all sorts of things, but what do you mainly help people with?
I would say brain fog, which I describe as people who just don't feel like themselves. I like dealing really people with a very whole person centered approach, right? So I don't really treat severe mental illness anymore just because my schedule doesn't really allow it, and people with severe mental illness really need people who are who aren't going to be gallivanting off to London and Sydney to do interviews like this. But I now treat people, which I think is more and more people around the world, and some of these statistics reflect that. The dementia and Alzheimer's rates that are tripling around the world, and more and more people having anxiety disorders, and the scary world that we live in, and bombings, and the 24-hour news cycle, and watching our television, watching these images over and over again at not just at 5 p.m., but then 11 p.m. and 12 midnight. I like to help those people now because I think more and more people just don't feel like themselves, and they have a little bit of anxiety, maybe a little bit of ADHD, maybe a little bit of depression. They just don't feel like themselves. Their mood could be a little bit better. So my goal is to help those people, which I think, by the way, it's probably the majority of Americans, and I would venture to say probably about the majority of people living here in the UK as well. Just when you look at what we're eating, how we're living, our relationships, our spiritual practice, and all of these things, that we're not doing things the way we should be doing them. But there are simple fixes for that, so that's good.
So you basically just help people kind of like to focus and to stay kind of centered, I suppose, and really just move forward with kind of like a clear goal in mind.
Yeah, I think centered is a great word for it,
Yeah.
and really make some tangible progress. I love seeing people go from okay to great. So I would say that is my goal, to take people who are feeling okay, but they know that they could feel better, and I get them to feel even better than they do now.
Because you also help a lot of people from a relationship point of view.
Yes, and I really believe that relationships, I do a lot of couples therapy, I do a lot of sex therapy in my practice, and I have a chapter in my book called The Epidemic of Loneliness, and I really look at the way relationships are really so healing for the brain. We know, for example, that loneliness can double your risk of Alzheimer's disease. So really we could say that by cultivating healthier relationships, by building them and cultivating them and working on them and making them better, you're really not just taking care of your psychological health and your heart, but you're also taking great care of your brain.
So do you think those are kind of like the common denominators with kind of people in general when you come across them? That loneliness, sorry.
Yeah, I do. I think more and more people are lonely, and I think the irony is that social media has made many people antisocial.
Absolutely.
Because they have now they have thousands of Facebook friends, but very few friends that they could call confidants. And some of the statistics are reflecting that we have less and less people that we say are confidants. In fact, in America now, 25% of Americans say that they have none. They have no close friends they could tell anything to. So I think that's sort of a frightening statistic. And listen, I think social media can be a great thing when used properly,